Well, here it is, and boys, it was a good one. Star Wars Ahsoka Episode 5 Shadow Warrior has been released, and boy, was it good. It was very good, in fact. I think just the first bit that was for the whole episode was the fact you had the Clone Wars flashback with Captain Rex making a cameo, Hayden Christensen actually doing well as Anakin. Oddly enough, now he's grown into the role and they've actually given him a chance to develop. He's doing quite well on the fact of why the fact I think Ahsoka was paired with Anakin in the first place, given the fact of how strong she is in the Force, and at the same time how strong Anakin is in the Force as well. Also, another thing I liked about the whole episode was just the fact that we got to see Jason doing his thing, and how for a fact that he is also Force sensitive, though he doesn't quite know it yet, and at the same time of how the fact that he is very much infused by the idea of being on a Jedi starship. The other thing I found very brilliant about the whole episode was the fact that Ahsoka's insecurities manifested themselves, oddly enough, I think, as a version of Anakin Skywalker, in which you had to make a choice between living and dying, and how I think the fact this is building into Ahsoka's character development. She spent the last several years grappling with her failures, doing the Clone Wars amongst other things, like making brash decisions that got soldiers killed, rushing in headlong, and Anakin understanding many of her characteristics. There are certain aspects of himself, like her overconfidence in her abilities, her incredible force potential, amongst other things. And the fact the reason why she left the Jedi Order was the fact she didn't agree with it and probably felt stifled. The other brilliant thing, along with the fact the events that happened in the show itself, like Barriss V framing her for the bombing. The other thing I think I really liked about the whole episode, I think, was the fact that Harrison Doula's son is developing to become an interesting character further down the line. He's certainly more of an interesting character. I mean, he's force sensitive, which is certainly something else. That was very nice to see. The fact that, yes, it references the fact of his father, Kanan, was a Jedi, and so, of course, that makes him force sensitive. The other thing I really liked about this whole episode was the fact that Harrison Syndulla is facing problems in the New Republic Defense Oversight Committee. They're making plans to permanently relieve her of command of her battle group or fleet. And as a result, they have to come up with a plan. And at the same time, Mon Mothma telling her directly, and the Senator Organa, who probably understands the whole reason behind this, they were the core figures of the rebellion. And I think half the current senators don't get it. Because they were either they either just simply just went back to something else or just simply stayed on as governors or bureaucrats in the imperial system. So many of them don't even realize how bad the Empire was from their perspective. Unlike, say, someone of Mon Mothma's or Senator Organa, who we think is basically Princess Leia, they understood how bad it was, and they don't know for a fact the gap between military and civilian government is growing, which is going to make some interesting storytelling. The other thing I really liked about the whole thing was the fact that the fleet showed up because there was no official mission and they didn't get the mission approved by the Oversight Committee, which does seem a bit odd. And the fact that, well, she needed evidence, the fact that Dawn was coming back. Well, they don't have any evidence. Well, they'll have the evidence if you let them investigate. But that's besides the point. The other thing I think is brilliant is the fact that this episode has largely been focusing on Ahsoka battling her own inner demons, which I think is a brilliant idea. And it's built up some very nice character development through the episode. The other thing I really liked about the episode in general was that Ahsoka really just went all in on it, and at the same time, she eventually was able to conquer that demon. And I think the Clone Wars flashback was particularly good. I mean, we saw the Siege of Mandalore, and we saw a very young Ahsoka, and I think this is the rather odd thing because of the way Ahsoka's costume developed throughout the course of the show from what it did. I'm not surprised if they did put her in an original look, but I think for possible they went something else. Went for a later outfit. We don't exactly know when this battle took place, but it built in quite nicely, oddly enough. And even though for a fact that in the Clone Wars, Ahsoka's character model, I think, changed, seeing from the fact she was growing and aging, This version of the character was a bit more. They had to use the same actor, I think, just for the sake of it, but it blended in quite nicely. And at the same time, we saw references to how Ahsoka's combat techniques developed. You know, we saw her first wielding one lightsaber, then she got the two lightsabers, which she wields now. That was very nicely done. We didn't see, oddly enough, a curved grip lightsaber, but we saw her developing a lightsaber technique. The other thing I think was the fact of Anakin Skywalker first fighting her with a blue lightsaber. Then we got flash of him turning to Darth Vader. Then he tried to fight her with a red lightsaber. And that was brilliant. And the fact that Ahsoka finally gets a new kind of introspection. And I also think the fact of the cozy relationship she has with Jason. She doesn't call her Auntie Ahsoka, but nonetheless it's quite close. And the other thing is, I think, is the fact that how good it went in the path of the show. I just wish for a fact there was more Rebels cameos appearing in the episode, like our Lasat friend, and maybe a couple of others, but that's just me. But I really am liking where the show's going. It's building up to a very nice conclusion and a climax. The best bit, I think, about the whole episode, oddly enough, was when the 3 New Republic cruisers showed up, and they came into contact with, I think, the whales. That scene was brilliant. Very nicely done. Very nicely done, from my opinion. Expertly done, I think. Just having the creatures just roll up, seeing the captain of the squad, the ship and the command vessel of the squadron, order the ship to take evasive maneuvers, trying not to get hit. And I think the delaying tech is also quite good. And I think they're actually getting to see a lot more of it. Disney Star Wars has definitely improved leaps and bounds since The Force Awakens. Well, it was already there with Rebels. It just needed time to develop. The other thing I really liked about the whole episode was its references to Star Wars What do I think the fact they're referencing the Thrawn trilogy a little bit here and there? And the fact, I think the best sequence of it was, I think, was the ring jumping at the start of the episode. That was very nicely done. It's sort of building the whole thing, the whole idea of the Episode 7 Force ramming idea, but on a different scale. The other aspect, I think, is the fact that Ahsoka decided to use the whales to catch up. Yeah, the Star Wars space whales, or they get the name of, to catch up with Morgan Elsbeth and Sabine. That was going to be quite good, and the fact that she just said, and her droid going like, do they even know where we're going? Do you even know where they're going? And so they're going, no, but we have to trust them. Because after all, and the fact they flew into the whale so they could jump there. This is going to turn out to be very interesting as the episode progresses. And I can't wait to see more of that. I really can't. Star Wars Ahsoka has probably been one of the best shows thus far, all things considered, given its development. But it could do more, and I wish there was more references in it, but that's just me. I think I'm also really looking forward to Episode 6, as this will be the first Star Wars media taking place outside of a new galaxy in over 20 years. But also, I'm waiting for the Thrawn to show up. And I'm hoping they're setting this up for a sequel, because Star Wars Ahsoka has been brilliant. Or maybe the fact there'll be a Star Wars Thrawn show later somewhere down the line. Or maybe the fact they'll just defeat Thrawn at the end of it. But nonetheless, this is turning out to be brilliant. And I can't wait to see what else they're going to do. I really can't wait for Episode 6 coming out next week. I really can't. Star Wars Ahsoka has just been brilliant up until this point. Oh yeah, and I also like the fact that the Captain Rex cameo. But still, yeah. A few bad points. I think just the fact of the flashback sequence not being quite done. I think also the fact the merger was slightly broken, but the fact they didn't have, apparently this is Ahsoka taking place, and a Star Wars model grew and aged as she did in the show, whereas the actors they had didn't. But I suppose that's probably just minor nitpicks, but nonetheless, it was brilliantly done and brilliantly executed from a Star Wars perspective. Well, I've been the Universal Challenge. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheerio!